Homer led the league in tackles with 85. The deep ball for Darius Prince, and Philadelphia's on the board first.
On the draw, this is Bryson Allen. And Allen weaving his way all the way down to the 22.
10-yard line, 5. Mayfield, Dancy, all around. Throw as far as he can throw it. Jump ball coming. Crazy stuff. Not this time.
And you want to be a wide receiver. You're going to have to take a little bit of a hit like that as Brown got him in that shoulder, but watch. Oh, those are teeth.
Do we have a dentist on staff here?
All right, we are back for another episode of Around the Indoor Football World. And as always, I'm joined by my trusty co-hosts here, TJ Bartholomew and Krish Vyas. How you guys doing this morning?
Good. How are you?
Doing great. Looking forward to another great weekend of some awesome football. We've got a lot to talk about. I know I wasn't here last week, so maybe it feels like I haven't got a chance to talk to you guys about a lot of the stuff that's gone down, but it also seems like we went through a pretty busy week over this week. And, man, I guess where do you guys want to start? Do you want to start with the IFL, the NAL, or the AF1?
It doesn't matter to me. Man, there's news everywhere today.
Yeah, exactly. Man, let's go ahead and start with the IFL, I suppose. So we got a little less news in the IFL, more good, stuff, guys elevating to the next level. So let's go ahead and start there. Mevis, the kicker from Green Bay, has signed to the CFL. And then Krish, refresh my memory. What's the linebacker's name who just signed, went to Patriots minicamp?
Yeah, Sal Napoli.
Thank you. What do you know about him?
Yeah, I mean, Sal's, he's a good locker room guy. He's a leader, obviously. I think everyone who gets elevated to that level is a leader. But he's someone, he's great with the fans. He's the first one out during the autograph line, last one to leave. He conducts himself in a professional manner during sideline interviews. He's never upset. A lot of guys, sometimes when you interview them in the middle of, a game, they kind of shrug their shoulders. He walks right over. He handles himself. He has a really good on and off switch. So he knows when to go too high and go, kind of calm it down a little bit. He'll do great wherever he goes. He's a great kid. I like him a lot. So
glad to hear that. I mean, obviously you can't glean too much from a person's personality, but his picture makes him look like he's a very happy, not happy, but happy-go-lucky type guy. So, he kind of looks like the type of guy you want to root for whatever that's worth. TJ, what are your thoughts? You're the resident special teams expert. What are your thoughts about Mevis making it to the CFL?
I mean, I think it's awesome. It shows that arena and indoor football definitely does elevate, same kind of thing with Jalen Morton, from the AF1 going up to the UFL. I mean, it's good for the league. It's good for the sport. Obviously, it keeps it in mind of everyone who is even just a general fan that these guys are good and they can get bumped up. He was obviously one of the better kickers going this season in the IFL, and it got noticed. And it's a reminder to all the players that, hey, man, even if the situation isn't perfect, right there's the proof that, again, you can move up. So I think it's really, really great for him, really awesome for him, obviously. Wish him well. And it's another good look for the IFL.
Completely agree. Actually, I think Green Bay was second in field goal conversion percentage. So, I mean, that's saying a lot when we're talking indoor football. That is no joke. We got a couple questions here, but we will definitely get to the AF1 stuff a little bit later. Here's a good question for you guys. We can move to this next. Can Quad City stay undefeated this weekend? Let's go to Krish first.
No, absolutely not. No, I think Green Bay is they're hot. I don't think the defense again is anything special, but I think they play really good on offense. I think Myler is starting to really get it right, and they got Jalen Cagle back. He was great, versatile piece for them. So you combine him with Kamani Clark back there. I mean, the possibilities are endless for Green Bay on offense. So I'm excited. I think Green Bay is going to get the win this week for sure.
I'm glad you brought up Mailer. I think he's been playing really well this season. I'm a big fan of his personally. I think he's a great fit for what they like to do there. So, honestly, I think the sky's the limit for him, especially when he gets going. So hopefully he can kind of find some momentum here. So I guess the biggest news would be that Daquan Neal is reportedly hurt, and that Demery Croft, sorry, I blanked his name there for a minute. Demery Croft might actually end up starting for a couple weeks. What are you guys' thoughts on how big of a blow this is to Quad City? And Krish, how much does that factor into your decision to say they'll lose tonight?
Everything, honestly. I think Demery Croft is a great athlete. He was great when he was in Tucson. That was the peak of his career, and then he kind of fell off a little bit. As a passer, I think I was looking the other day, he only had like a 42% completion percentage the rest of the way. So, obviously it's frustrating for Quad Cities, but he's out for 2 weeks. They got a tough-ass schedule. They got Green Bay, they got Tulsa, Indy, and then they have to take smoke from us after, and then Jacksonville. So they got a really tough schedule coming up. So I think it's a huge blow. And even if Daquan comes back, he's going to be, when a player comes back from injury, they're never 100% the first week. So they're going to feel it for sure.
Yeah, I definitely agree on that. TJ, what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, obviously, it's the most important position on the field, but I don't think I think it catches up with them depending on how long he has to fill in for, but I don't think it happens today because I did pick, Quad City to win over Green Bay today. So I think the real question isn't for today's game, at least, do they win or lose because of their own quarterback play? I think it's more or less, does Green Bay put together a full game? Because throughout the season, when Green Bay's on, man, they're a hard out. But when they have miscues and stuff like that, they kind of shoot themselves in the foot. But Quad City, man, they just figure out ways to win. I think they can, if they can get a running game going a little bit to take off in the game against Green Bay today, to take off some of the pressure, that'll go a long way. And, their defense, their defense has been pretty spot on for the season so far. So if their defense can keep doing good, it'll definitely take a lot of pressure off, and the less pressure your backup quarterback has, then obviously the better you are. So I see it being a noticeable difference, but not to the point where they lose today, in my own opinion.
I nearly picked Quad City again myself, and then at the last second I changed my bet to Green Bay. But we'll save that for the betting segment. I forgot to pose you all watching a question before we started the show, and I'm going to back up a little bit, so I apologize about this being out of order. But we have a question for today, and we want everybody to drop their thoughts in the chat, and we'll get to them here shortly, and then we'll kind of give you guys our answers at the end of the show. Which undefeated from all three leagues will stay undefeated the longest? Who will be the last standing, so to speak? Quad City, Albany, or Beaumont? If these teams played each other, who would come out on top of those three? I'm kind of curious to hear your guys' answers. We put up a poll on the Facebook and the Twitter recently. So if you voted in those, let us know. We'll make sure to pull up those results here shortly. But transitioning over to our last couple topics here in the IFL, I had a question for you guys. I got a wild hair the other day, was looking at the IFL Hall of Fame, and I noticed almost every guy listed in there, not every guy, but almost every guy has a championship next to their name in the IFL. So I'm curious, where does Nate Davis lie as far as a future Hall of Famer in the IFL? Is he a first ballot? No question about it. He needs to be in as soon as he's eligible to go in. Or is there a situation where you feel the voters will have some pause because he doesn't have that same resume in the IFL so far?
I mean, no disrespect to Nate Davis, but he's never getting a championship ring. I mean, I'm just being honest. Like, San Diego's not going anywhere. But I think, yes, you do put him in the Hall of Fame, because I think being a Hall of Famer is how you elevate the people around you, the players around you. And I've seen that year after year. The way he elevated Dello Davis, Arthur Jackson, like the list goes on and on. So, I mean, I look at a great example with like Devanir Concliffe, who's with Omaha Beef now. He went to Cross Cities. His production declined like crazy when he went to Cross Cities. But when he was in Duke City, right, Nate Davis was feeding him the ball. Same thing, with other receivers too across the year. So, yeah, I think you do put Nate Davis. His stats are crazy. I mean, I think before, too, when you see the IFL Hall of Fame, there were less teams in the IFL, right? So the odds of probability of winning a championship was much higher. Now it's lower. It's harder to win a championship. What happened to Nate Davis last year when he went down to Arizona for the Western Conference Championship, right? They lost by 37. So, you can't really put that against him, if you know what I mean.
No, I completely agree. And that I don't want this to be a slight to Nate Davis. I mean, this is the same discussion we could have about Dan Marino versus John Elway, or it's one of those situations where, unfortunately, due to the way that football is structured, his legacy will always have some slight bit of doubt from some people around because of that lack of IFL championships. I know he's won championships in other league, but that was just something I wanted to ask you guys. So, TJ, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think Nate Davis is a no question Hall of Famer?
I think if you look at his overall body of work in indoor and arena entirely, yes. But again, specifically for the IFL, I don't think he's proven enough while he's been in the IFL to be at that status just yet. So I know it's a rarity, but I got to agree with Krish on this one. If he would hang around a little bit now, again, he's been around for a while since 2008, 2009. Between NFL camps and then going to arena. So he's been around for a while. If he could go a few more years, that could change. I don't think he necessarily, in today's landscape, needs that championship. But he would definitely need a few more years of, quote unquote, stat building to be considered for the IFL specific Hall of Fame.
That's fair. And that's kind of why I wanted to ask this question, because I think there's a lot of people that will see it from both sides of the fence. Honestly, I think, quite honestly, Nate Davis is the greatest quarterback I've ever watched overall. When we're talking pure passers, I don't think it gets much better than him. But at the same time, I do acknowledge the fact that is always going to be a part of the question when you're talking Hall of Fame. And right now, that's something that he can't necessarily argue against. Now, I personally think he should be a first ballot, no question Hall of Famer when he retires, simply based on the way he operates within a league that's dedicated to the run game. He is able to be efficient where most pocket passers have been all but eliminated from the league. So I think that should be kind of considered as well. He's kind of more or less I don't want to say a game changer, because it's obviously not that extreme, but he's a different kind of playmaker than what the other IFL defenses are expected to see. So I think that's kind of something that should be considered as well. But that's just me. Different people have different opinions on this. So looking at the playoff picture, we're about a third of the way through the season. Figured now would be a good time to kind of take an overall sky in the eye view of the league currently, how the playoffs are shaping up. and kind of get your guys' opinions on dark horses. So looking at the East Division, well, actually, I'll just go ahead and pull it up real quick. So here we got the standings. Excuse me. And realistically, both divisions are stacking up pretty evenly. I mean, you've got a couple teams that are pulling away, but they've only got a 1 or 2 game lead on the teams right below them. So there's still a lot of teams very much in the hunt. You could even say Iowa and San Antonio are still very much in the hunt because they've played less games. So that's another thing that we can kind of consider as we go through here. But Krish, how do you see the playoffs shaking out, viewing it from this perspective where we're at right now?
I want to say that's a mistake. I think San Antonio is 1-4. I could be. Yeah, I think they're 1-4 for sure. Yeah,
Okay.
they are 1-4 because they're 1-4. So, I think we'll start with the East. Let's say I think Quad Cities, you could say, is a lock for now. Tulsa, in my opinion, is a lock. We haven't seen the best of Tulsa yet. I think that's a up and coming team. Indy's kind of hard for me. We'll talk about their quarterback situation later, but I think that plays a part. And Iowa's eliminated in my book. And then for me, I mean, obviously us, right? We're 2-3 right now. I really believe we look at our schedule down the stretch. I believe we can turn it around and go on a run here. So for us, I'm looking at the 2nd or 3rd seed, and I'm fine with that as long as we get. I want 2. I prefer 2, obviously, but 2nd and 3rd, I'm cool with either. We have wide open chance at that. And then the West, Arizona, Bay Area are both locks in the playoffs, so they'll both be in the playoffs. That leaves 2 spots open. I don't think San Diego's a playoff team right now. I really don't. Northern Arizona is eliminated, so that leaves Vegas and San Antonio. I think Vegas and San. I know San Antonio is 1-4 right now, but I believe they can turn it around. So. Oh, I think you're on mute.
Sorry, I am on mute. Sorry about that. So no, that's fair. Honestly, I've liked San Antonio this season. I expected them to be a lot better than they are right now, record-wise. So it would not shock me at all if they bounced back. You know, they've gone through a lot so far early in the season. You know, changing head coaches mid-year is never easy. You know, look at Massachusetts, one of the other most talented teams in the league on paper, currently 2-3 because of, you know, in my mind, you know, the kind of coaching changes as things have unfolded for them this season. And realistically, I expect them to have a bounce back here shortly and get on the winning side of that record very quickly. TJ, how do you see the playoffs shaking out currently?
Well, you look at the standings and, Quad City, I feel like, they definitely won't remain undefeated, especially with the injuries, but they're definitely a lock to make the playoffs. Jacksonville should make the playoffs, but they're not, in my opinion, they're not quite as dangerous as their record implies. If you get into a little bit of a scoring fest with them, you have the advantage. You know, it shows that they're more of a, kind of like 30 something points scoring a game offense, high 20s, low 30s for the most part. So they rely on their defense keeping teams in the higher 20s, mid to high 20s per game. So they have a weakness if you face them, obviously in the regular season or in the postseason. You know, uh, Green Bay and Tulsa, you know, I could see them flip-flopping. They're both teams that are like right there, but they're just not complete. At certain points in games or at the end of games, they just have a little bit of a trouble closing things out, it seems, but they're definitely on the right track. The Pirates, they're the true wild card in my opinion because they started off rough, but they've kind of turned it on as of late. So it'll be interesting to see how they do. Fisher's Freight, they're I want to say I could see them making a late run, but I just don't feel like they're all there yet. But for a first year franchise, man, they're definitely ahead of schedule in my opinion. So it's not all negativity there. And Iowa, it's kind of all negativity this season. It's just not a good year for them right now. I can see them turning things around and getting a little bit better, but I don't think they're going to be able to dig themselves out of the hole that they've put themselves in. Uh, for the West, Arizona and Bay Area, they're two of the better teams. I know Arizona just took an L recently, but I they're at the top of the list. In my opinion, I would trust Bay Area in the playoffs though more than the Rattlers, just based off of what I've seen so far this season. Las Vegas, they're another one of those teams where it's kind of same as Tucson really is they just don't necessarily play complete games. They look great in certain games, and then other games they just, literally fumble away. They let it slip through their fingertips. San Diego, you could say the same thing. Honestly, though, out of those three, Vegas, Tucson, and San Diego, I would consider honestly San Diego probably the more dangerous out of those three wildcard teams from the West. And then obviously, San Antonio, just not a great year. They're they keep adding guys, they keep trying to do stuff, but they just can't seem to put it together.
Fair
And
enough.
then Northern Arizona, yeah, their season is not that great either. So
Yeah, I was.
you kind of have a couple bottom dwellers.
It's kind of odd to see that with Naz. Like I expected with a new coach, especially the coach that they brought in, I expected them to get off to a hot start at least. And so far, it does not look like I was expecting to see. Obviously, my opinion was based off my respect for Coach James, so maybe that's why I expected more. But something tells me year 2 will be a lot better for them, assuming he's back. So. That'll be a situation to follow for sure, because like I said, I did not see this coming. Krish, you alluded to the fact that you have some comments or some thoughts on the Fisher Freight quarterback situation. Why don't you go ahead and elaborate on those, and we'll kind of discuss your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, look, okay, so we both know Keegan Shoemaker and Jai Wright haven't played up to standard. You know what I mean? Like, I think Jai had played better than Keegan Shoemaker has. Keegan Shoemaker, I believe, has 7 turnovers in 3 games. So, I mean, you can't win with that. He's a rookie. But I don't think they have time to develop a rookie. You know what I'm saying? Developing a rookie mid-season is much harder to do than, obviously the beginning of the season. So my number one thought is they need to make a quarterback change. I've been saying this for weeks. Now, the biggest factor or option for them would be Drew Powell, right? Obviously now he's a free agent. Dixie Wooten has coached him before in Iowa. They won a championship together. So it makes sense. It makes sense. But I think they need to go out and get Drew Powell. And I think my theory is that part of the deal that Kevin Guy made with Drew Powell in order to release him was he has to sign with an Eastern Conference team, not a West. I think I can 99.9% guarantee that's probably what the deal was. And I wouldn't be surprised. And that's not a bad thing at all. So Indy, I believe Indy should go out and get Drew Powell if they are serious about being a contender. Because they have a good line. They have a great offensive line. They got good receivers. They just need a good quarterback. So.
No, this team's stacked. And honestly, I think we talked about it a lot this offseason. That we all thought Daquan Neal would actually land with Fisher's Freight. He's been with Dixie at every stop that he's been at before this at one point or another. Won a lot of games under Wooten and kind of put up some of the best seasons of his career. So we all kind of thought he was going to be there. TJ, what do you make of the Fisher's Freight quarterback situation, and who do you think they should pursue?
Man, your guess is as good as mine. They started off pretty good, but as of late, they've had a lot of offensive issues. I mean, what is it? Drew Powell, maybe. or maybe they could try and trade for Snead, something like that. You know, I'm not really sure who they go and get. It's just like I said before. For a first year franchise, they're doing great. They just need to find a couple missing pieces, and quarterback play's been up and down a little bit. So if they are able to find a good replacement, then they could make a push maybe for that last spot, depending on how other things play out. But uh, but yeah, unfortunately, I think for them right now at 2-4, it may be too little, too late for them.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, honestly, this is part of the reason why you want to bring in veteran quarterbacks, right? And I'm not saying Jai Wright hasn't played or doesn't know the game or anything, but that's definitely this is one of the ways it can go. And Jai Wright started off hot. I think he played pretty well early on, and maybe he can get back on track. But the last few games, like Krish said, have not been up to snuff, and that's a big reason why they've.
I mean, Jai Wright is like JJ McCarthy. Like you watch, but I mean, I watched him in person. Like he's a handoff merchant. Honestly, like they're no different. So.
All right. Well, there's the always spicy take from Krish. It comes every week. We don't know when it's going to come, but you just got to assume it's going to come. And there it is. So obviously we kind of glossed over this fact real quick. Krish mentioned it. Drew Powell was released from Arizona. Just real quick answer. You don't have to give a ton of breakdown on this one or anything like that. Where do we think he lands? I mean, obviously, Krish, I think it sounds like you expect him to be in Fisher's Rate or with Fisher's Rate.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously, if that Western Conference theory that I have isn't true, I think San Antonio would be the number one landing spot. And that's no disrespect to my boy Guy Myers. It's the business, right? You want to add another vet if you can, and especially of his caliber, someone who has over 400 touchdowns, 3 championship rings. Like, why wouldn't you want to add a quarterback like that? So, San Antonio, and then I would say Fisher. Those are my 2 main spots for him.
That's fair. TJ, do you have any potential landing spots you could see making sense?
Yeah, well, obviously Fisher's great. Yeah, I agree with Krish on San Antonio. Hey, you could see, Coach James maybe, pull him in with his resume. You never know.
Makes sense. Do you see any potential of him landing back in the AF1, or are we pretty certain he's going to stay IFL?
For the right team, I could see it. I could honestly see it. The AF1 is not light years ahead of what last year. I'll just leave it at that was, but they are much more stable. The better teams in terms of being run and stuff. It's evident. You can tell by watching the game. So I could see him giving the AF1 a chance, given the the right opportunity and maybe the right compensation package.
Makes sense. Krish, do you see it most likely being the IFL, or could you see a potential of him in the AF1 again?
I mean, I would love for a team like Southwest Kansas, who doesn't have like a real quarterback. I mean, all they have is Grissom, I think, who can't throw a 5-yard out. But I think, Southwest to go get him. I think Nashville. I know Tyler Coca has played great, but again, when you have an opportunity to add a veteran quarterback, why wouldn't you? I think Nashville's a great option. A sleeper, not in the AF1, is the Columbus Lions. That's my big sleeper. They released a lot of their high-level guys like DeAndre Brown, D'Amico Ewing, Joe Green, and Drew Powell is best friends with Brian Robinson. So I think that's an interesting thing. But I think IFL for sure.
Hey, it's Jarius Grissom calling. He's asking for his respect. Daniel's up with us watching us this morning. Thank you for tuning in, Daniel. One of these days, buddy, we got to get you on to come talk some indoor ball. Should Southwest Kansas go after him? And this, of course, we all know Krish is vicious. Krish is vicious. I mean, in terms of Southwest Kansas going after him, it would make some sense. I mean, obviously they're short a quarterback now, which this was going to be a topic for later on, but we can go ahead and transition into AF1 here in a minute. So he's a mobile guy. He kind of fits what they like to do. It wouldn't be the most out of the realm possibility in the world, in my thought. But I mean, yeah, there's not a ton of quarterbacks just waiting for a call to start currently, as far as I know. So that it's going to be interesting to see exactly what happens there at quarterback for them. And there's a couple other things that have kind of fallen throughout this season. Malik Henry jumped over to Billings already, so he's off the market. There's been a couple other moves recently as well. I'm blanking his name at the moment, but the kid that was in Vegas early on this offseason is now with Iowa. So guys have been jumping around. They've been filling spots. So there's just not a very hefty market at the moment. But let's go ahead and hit the commercial real quick. We'll come back. We'll jump over to AF1. Got a lot to talk about in the AF1 today, including, will Billings relocate? Malik Henry to Billings. So many different topics that we can get to here in a second that I think it's going to be one of the more interesting leagues to discuss today, including Jalen Morton to Birmingham and Jon Gruden joining Nashville's Cats ownership. But we'll get to that here in a minute.
I'm just being myself, cool as can be. When I'm being myself, you wish you were me. It's so easy. Get out your own way. It's just so easy.
All right, and just a reminder that check out HoneyStinger, the official sponsor of TJ Bartholomew over here. The link is in the description of the YouTube video. It should be on Facebook, LinkedIn as well. So if you want to check out any of our sponsors, the link should be down there. And your help there is very much appreciated. Stuff like that helps support the network, obviously. And if you really want to support the network, check out our brand new merch store that's finally live through Branding Blanks, our only merch provider we will probably ever use. My boy Matt DePalma from way back in the day. We've known each other forever. Just a guy that I personally would recommend to anybody, and I'm very excited to get that off the ground. So you can check out our very special Shady Sports Network merchandise store, again, on brandingblanks.com. So if you have not gotten some merch yet, definitely recommend you hop over there. We got some pretty hot prices right now, and it's only going to go up from there as demand grows, obviously. So with all that out of the way, let's transition over to the AF1. And obviously the big hot topic that has been discussed multiple times this week, and virtually every group I'm a part of, I'm sure you guys have seen it too, is the comments by Steven Titus on Billings, their fan support, what have you. So what are your guys' thoughts, just off the cuff, and I'll bring up the tweet here in a second, about what Titus said about the Billings fans and potentially making the decision to eventually relocate the franchise if that's what it takes. TJ, you're the resident Billings fan, so let's go to you first, buddy.
Yeah, I don't know why people are surprised to start with him kind of just blasting that out there, because if everyone remembers, last year he was being praised for it when he said all the wrongdoings that were going on in the previous league, the first real vocal person to get out there. So people who were surprised by him putting this out there, I mean, you don't know him because he's always done stuff like this. But when you're 2-4, frustration boils over, and sometimes you post stuff, and that's what he did. I'm not saying it is a completely bad thing, but the overall execution of how he did it kind of puts literally all the negatives that Billings is going through this season pretty much on the fan base, which that's not true. They have not played up to par. But for him to post this and almost have it as like a threatened message to fans, like, hey, either show up or we're moving. I mean, I don't know if that's the way I would have went personally, but hey, he's the owner and I'm not. So, but I mean, some things he does list, costs going up, everything else, and I mean that's the truth. If on the business standpoint side of things, you are not making the money and the team is not long term viable, then you have to consider relocation. Because if you don't consider relocation, then it's just going to be another team that in 3, 4, 5 years goes on a break or a hiatus and never comes back. So I think from a business standpoint, if the numbers aren't adding up, yeah, you do. But I would definitely try to make a little bit more of an effort than just this, to stay in Billings. We'll see, how it goes. Obviously I'm a Billings fan, so on a lot of message boards and a lot of, the fan pages and stuff like that. Uh, Unfortunately, more people and fans are taking it as more of a slight or a slap in the face than a challenge to, hey guys, let's rally, let's rally the team, let's do this. But again, time will tell. Uh, I understand. Again, I understand why he did this, but I feel like maybe he should have toned back the aggression a little bit and the blame game a little bit, because it's definitely not solely on the fans or sponsors that the team is not performing, and that's kind of how he made it sound.
Yeah, I think that's how it came off. I don't want to speak for Steven Titus, because obviously he can speak for himself, as we see. But I think it was more meant to be a challenge. It was more meant to tell people, look, like, it's expensive to run an arena football team. We could not spend $1,000 per game every single player on the roster again this season. So yes, maybe there is a slight drop in talent on the overall scheme of things, but this is, in my mind, nothing that Cedric Walker isn't used to. He's coached in the CIF. He knows how it is to have to recruit players at a lower dollar point. So, we kind of knew what it was going to be when we came into this, and we heard that the $400 minimum was in place versus $1,000 minimum. That's a large drop. So there are a lot of players that are going to straight up say no right off the bat, and that's something that's tough in that side of things. So I get the correlation that he's trying to say, but I have to question this somewhat, because I mean, obviously player salary budgets to be competitive or higher. I mean, he literally makes this statement less than a week after signing Darius Prince and Dwayne Hollis. Like, you can't tell me that was cheap. So, I mean, stuff like that, I think we kind of see how it's trending. But I will be the one to actually praise Titus for saying this. I would rather an owner vocalize something like this than wait till the very last minute when the franchise is beyond saving, and then have to go dormant. You know what I mean? So in my mind, you're telling the fan base, look, we need your support, or I have to do something. It's not like I can wait it out too much longer, which, in all due fairness, I think part of the reason Billings isn't necessarily backing up this team like they should on a more widespread level. Now, let's keep in mind this: their arena is fairly large, so sometimes their crowds do look a little worse than they probably are. But it is the fact that Billings has come and gone, in the future, the past. So I think the fans are kind of wary of something like that. So when they hear that the team might leave, they're probably going to start taking it personally, because they've had it happen so many times before. So that's a thought that kind of crossed my mind over this week, and hopefully fans realize where his heart's at. Like, obviously he wants to be in Billings. He had a team in Gillette before the AFL started. He could have easily found a viable option in Wyoming, where he lives, by the way, to my knowledge, and then moved forward with Wyoming and shuttered Billings after the 2023 season. So let's keep that in mind. He chose to be in Billings. This was his choice. So, give him some flack on what he said, sure. But at the same time, consider the fact that he could have already made the decision to shutter Billings and didn't. So that's something to kind of factor into your decision making as well. But I also need to introduce another guest that has just joined us. He is here just via audio, not on camera, but Coach Brandon Henderson. Coach, how you doing this morning?
I'm good, fellas. How y'all doing this morning?
Doing well. Thank you for coming on. It's been a while since we've gotten a chance to talk to you, so very excited to hear your thoughts on the potential relocation of the Billings Outlaws.
It was a shock to me being part of the AFL last year and dealing with Billings and them. They were one of the more stability teams, I think, in the league. Them, Albany, Southwest Kansas, Salina, that were stable and was probably going to be around. So when he made that statement, like you said, it was kind of contradictory because you just signed Darius Prince and Dwayne Hollis, like probably two of the highest paid players in AFL. And I know for a fact they not playing for no chump change because I recruited both of them last year. So, and DP gonna tell you straight off bat, I'm not coming unless you're giving me this price minimum. So, hey, it's kind of shocking. But another thing too, you can't blame the city of Billings for lack of marketing, because that's been a big thing with a lot of owners who do have money. They tend to not market well in their areas. I got a post. I jumped on the post and saw one of the guys in Tulsa. He said Tulsa is probably one of the well-organized marketing teams in indoor arena football. He said he got every single week he gets an email blast from Tulsa about a game or something that they're doing. Like he said, it makes you want to be a part of that. When you constantly keep seeing it every day or every week, they sending out email blasts or they sending out something to you, to your office. It's about marketing. And I think that's where a lot of owners tend to fall off at. Oh, they see, we the AFL, and we're gonna come in and we're gonna get all these players and we're gonna do it this way. But you have to market too, because you gotta, like you said, Billings been there 2 or 3 times. So fans are skeptical. They don't know what to expect. Are you gonna stay? Are you gonna be here 1 year and leave? You gotta sell them and make them feel like they really are part of something and that you're gonna be there to stay. So that's the only thing I would say. Like, when you're an owner, I know it's hard running a team, but you got to look at it from a player standpoint and from a fan standpoint, because those are the two people who keep your business to operate.
100%. I couldn't have said it better, especially about the fans part. You have to consider the fans above all else when it comes to something like this. And, at some point, this is going to sound like an Omaha Beef podcast if I continue to praise Ricky, but he does a lot of things right. And one of the things that the Omaha Beef do correctly is the marketing side of things. They are very, very good at selling sponsorships and marketing the team. So that is one thing that I think, goes a long way in indoor football. A lot of people are not aware of indoor football. The average person that, honestly, let's take it one step further. The average NFL fan is not aware of indoor leagues. And that's just the fact of the matter. So until you can put it in front of their face and be like, hey, you've got a team in your backyard, like, come support us, come to a game. Tickets are way cheaper than most NFL franchises and stuff like that, especially in a market like Billings where you don't have a lot of professional sports. I mean, marketing is extremely key. So that's definitely a good point. I'm glad you brought that up.
I think he needs to take a play out of the old owner's books. The owner that we had when I was up in Billings with Coach O'Neill, who owned Oakley. Man, he marketed so much. You saw Billings everywhere. So you gotta feed into the community as well, because that community is the one that's gonna feed into you. And I think we missed that point. And like what you to piggyback off what you said, Sam, everybody don't see that. Everybody might talk stuff about Ricky, and Ricky might think I hate him, but I never do. I knew when we was in Council Bluff last year, if we didn't outmarket the Omaha Beef, we wasn't gonna be successful. And I told my owner that, and he didn't believe me. And look what happened. Because Ricky and him does a damn good job of marketing, and he knows how to sell his team. And as an owner, that's what you got to do to be successful. And I give Ricky all praise for that because he does that damn well.
Yes, he does. Yeah, I honestly think that long after he's decided that he wants to get out of the ownership game, something tells me he'll be like teaching a class on running a franchise and stuff like that. And again, I know we're getting to the point where we're kind of glazing the Omaha Beef here. But that's just one thing that I don't think anybody can argue, even if you're a beef hater, that they do a lot of things right, off the field to make sure that team is stable and it's going to be there every year. So, credit where it's due. There's a lot of good teams on that front too. So we're not just saying the beef.
Albany is one of the best marketing teams I've ever seen. I'm not gonna lie to you. I mean, they are everywhere. They really spend money in marketing. I like the way they run they show.
That's a great point. Albany does a great job as well. There's a couple other teams that do really well. So, definitely take that for what it is. We're not trying to heap all the praise on one team. Krish, what are your thoughts on these comments? And then we'll move on, and you can kick us off on the next topic, which is their new quarterback.
Right. So I like everything Coach B said. I go to a top 100 business school in the country. And one of the things they teach us is, sustainable growth. As soon as your growth starts to plateau, you got to make a change. And I think this is the situation here where he feels that the state of Montana, the support is non-existent. So he needs to make a change. He's a CSU Pablio, I think you call it, alum. So maybe moving the team to Denver, Colorado. They can play at the Nuggets Arena. There's so many options for him. He has a lot of connections in that region. He does business in Wyoming. He has some connections up in North Dakota. So I'm really interested to see where he moves this team. From fan support, you do have to market, right? Marketing is everything. I'll just speak from personal experience. My team moved an hour away from where I live, right? I spent over $800 last year to Uber to games, right? That's my commitment. I'm not going to miss a game. But there's other fans in my area that say, no, we're never going to come to a game because they moved until they bring the team back, and I think a lot of fans need to realize, you got to support your team. You know what I mean? You got to support your team if you want it to be around long term. You can't say I'm going to support it when it's too late. So the support, but that comes with marketing. You have to provide fans with resources in order for them to find the game. You can't just expect, he said, oh, I watched this show he did with my guy Scott over at AF1 Fan Zone and Repack. And he was like, oh, I've done everything. I did radio. I did this. I did that. But I see a comment right here from Adam from Billings, and he says the marketing here was terrible. So there seems to be a miscommunication, about what is the marketing. Because you can market, but it's about marketing to the right demographic, right? I can have a billboard in the middle of a city, but no one can see it, right? Or I can have a sign up at the park that everyone goes to, and then that, creates buzz. So, I agree with everything. Running an indoor team is not cheap. Everyone knows this. You're going to lose millions of dollars. But I think, Titus is kind of taking a stand and saying, all right, no more,
Honestly, though, you got to look at this, though, when you say that, Chris. If you look at that, he say municipal city of Billings government supportive team doesn't exist. But that's not on them. That's on you. You should be in the Chamber of Commerce. You should be trying to do all the city and community events so they can see you trying to support them so they can support you. That's a part of that. I don't think the right move is moving them from Billings because you already made a statement there 2 years straight. So now you just got to build it up and get more into the state and the community if you want them to support you. That's the biggest standpoint. And when you talk about that post too, it was a an actual sponsor that came on that post. I think you saw it. And he said he went to a game. He was a season ticket holder, a big sponsor, bought a suite, and his suite was given up. And when he went to Titus to talk to him, what Titus said, he was too busy to talk to him right now. That's not going to help you get sponsors. That's not going to help you get support around the city. What if this guy is one of like the big wigs around there and he tell his friends? And then what you think the other sponsors are going to do and say?
Good point. Good point. And to Krish's credit, I wanted to share something real quick. Again, not an Omaha Beef podcast, but I thought this was relevant. Look at the first post on Ricky Burtz's page, a business networking event. How much you want to bet? There's a purpose why he's going to that. Just saying. Again, not trying to glaze the Omaha Beef here or anything, but it's
Okay,
a reoccurring theme within Omaha and over the years since he's been the owner is he's involved in everything, and he's got his finger on the pulse of his team at all times, and that's important. And again, I'm not trying to say Steven Titus doesn't. He put somebody in Cedric Walker that he truly trusts above and beyond the team, I think, in power and kind of entrusts him to handle most everything with the team. So, he's definitely still involved, but that's definitely a factor as well that Ricky's, kind of there on an everyday basis. So Joshua Cox from Rebound Off the Net says Steven Titus puts a lot into the team for the support the team actually receives. It's crazy the lack of support coming off a championship. That point right there is a good one, and I wanted to touch on that real quick before we move on subjects. It's a great point that Billings should support their team better after championship. My question to you, Josh, and I would love to get your answer in the comments. How many people in Billings know they won the championship? If they don't know, how can they support the championship winning team? So that's a whole nother side of this. We need to consider these teams aren't talked about on ESPN. They aren't talked about on NFL Network, on Fox News, or all these different sports channels that talk about the major league teams. And that's part of the problem. And that'll always be part of the problem until somehow ownership kind of finds a way to break through that narrative and get back to where it once was. But that's a whole different ball game that we're just not in that situation right now. So that's something that needs to be considered as well. Obviously he was on radio and he did all these things, and that's great. Don't get me wrong. But there's also that situation where, are you hitting the right demographic? Is it specifically going to sports fans? Is it going to sports fans on a national level or a local level? These are all things to consider as well. But next point of top discussion is obviously the new quarterback in Billings. We've been talking about it the last few weeks. Billings needed a change at quarterback. They simply were not cutting it there with Wingle or with Southwick. And now they have Malik Henry, who has come over from previously was with the San Antonio Gunslingers, has been with Edmonton in the CFL recently, and then also spent some time with Albany last season. So let's go to Coach B on this one. What are your thoughts on Malik Henry to Billings?
A dog. That's a good pickup. I think that's a great pickup. But ultimately, it's going to come down to coaching. That goes back to when he was saying the player competitive rate. I don't think that was a factor in Billings. It's the coaching. The coaching staff is different there this year than it was last year too. You don't have the big play caller that you had last year on offense. Like I told Chris the other day, I don't care what you do. You cannot replace Bonner as an OC. The offense is never going to do what they did last year. Bonner can actually coach no matter what it is. If you an okay player, he going to make you look great in his system. So it's about the coaching out there. If Malik and Walker and the OC can get along, it's going to be great. Because you do got to remember, DP and Malik don't have a good history either. So that plays a factor in there.
Can you elaborate on the not having a good history?
Chris, go ahead and elaborate, Chris.
Yeah, look, they were up in Albany last year together, and I think not really having the opportunity to play together kind of maybe I mean, obviously there might be some things there, but I think, I'll go ahead and kind of give my take on this signing for a sec. I mean, Malik Henry is not a dog; he's a lion, right? He's a true professional in every sense of the word. I'll go back and tell the story, man. When I went to Carolina, I remember just everything about the way he handles himself is admirable. Pre-game, post-game, he's the first one out to sign autographs, last one to leave. He does everything the right way. And he elevates. I was in the locker room and I sat and I watched him for 3 hours. He doesn't need to say much because people follow him by his actions and the way he takes his game prep so seriously. There's very few quarterbacks. Like, I love Jalen Morton in Southwest Kansas, but he's not Malik Henry. Malik Henry is a different level of caliber of quarterback. And I expect him to do big things in Billings. I expect him and Darius Prince to do great things. I think that relationship is fine. I think he's going to come in and he's ready. I expect them to win out. Honestly, I expect them to win out and make the playoffs at 8-4, and maybe even make the championship because he's that big. He's at 119 passing touchdowns. He's one away from 120.
I like him, Chris. I love him. I'll put him up there with my QB. I feel like my QB is the GOAT in the game right now. Cato is the best quarterback indoor arena football right now, and I put Malik up there with Cato, and that's hard to do.
That's fair. So
you guys got to remember, didn't I tell you last year that Cato was going to be a monster?
That you did. So is that Cato back to the KC Goats this season confirmed?
It's confirmed.
There we go. Got a little bit of news on the show that I was totally not even expecting or planning on asking about. So yeah, definitely be crazy to see, especially considering he's currently playing in Salina. So, not saying that he's going to jump ship or anything, but it would be kind of cool to see him go from Salina to KC. Obviously, TJ, we made you wait till last, but you're the resident Billings fan, so I wanted to get your thoughts on everybody's comments and especially what Krish had to say there at the end. Do you think they win out?
Do I think they win out with Malik Henry? I see them ending the season very strong. I see them probably having, even if Malik Henry comes on and plays great, they probably still lose, I'll say, one more game. But it's definitely going to be a night and day difference. I don't like to use the term cost us the game, but a former coach I was with in Reading used to say, a single play doesn't cost you the game, but a single play can really put you behind the 8 ball. And in big moments, quarterback play in Billings has put them behind the 8 ball multiple times this season, especially with Southwick. You saw it last week with Wingle. It's just, it's like turnover city at times. Big moments, key moments. Southwick, with 2 red zone INTs a few weeks ago, you lose the game by 3 or 4 points. Obviously, that really puts you behind the 8 ball. Could the defensive stop them one more time? Yes, but when you were down there, you had the opportunity. You gave it away. So I definitely see this being a huge improvement for them, but time will tell if they can go undefeated. I would love that, but I can definitely see them winning majority of their games from here on out, though, with solid quarterback play now.
Nah, they're winning out. You got a pissed off Lion in Malik Henry. Saying I have too much respect for Coach Fuller, but the way San Antonio they did him so dirty. He was top 5 in every stat category in the IFL, and you have a pissed off hyena in Darius Prince. So it's about to get real scary. Billings is going to win out. Next week is the revenge game. I expect them to win next week too. So it's going to be a 6-0, and they're going to make the championship. So, yeah.
I'm in uncharted territory. I'm kind of scared that Krish is rooting for us all of a sudden. This is weird. This is
Well, good luck, my friend. He's been rooting for us supposedly all season.
No, Coach Thomas, I want to clarify, like, that's my boy, right? And sometimes when you're boys with someone, you got to tell them the truth. So I'm critical of Southwest Kansas because I want to see them make the championship and win, but it's just the way it is.
No, I love that. I'm an Eagles fan, so that kind of resonates with me. I get it for sure. So yeah, we'll go ahead and move on topics. Obviously, we've spent enough time talking about Malik Henry. Great quarterback. Excited to see what he can do with Billings. Definitely should be interesting. And, as we've talked about a lot this offseason, I think Billings is going to have a lot better success going forward because of the quarterback play. So that's definitely something to consider as well. But moving on to the next topic, speaking of quarterbacks, Jalen Morton has signed with the Birmingham Stallions and will be activated, I believe, today. I don't have the UFL schedule pulled up right now, so I apologize if it is actually a Sunday game, but will be active today, in their game. So obviously, let's talk about it. I mean, the goal of virtually every arena football player, not every arena football player, is to eventually get outdoors. And, obviously Morton had been there multiple times before. Are we at all surprised to see him get this opportunity? Krish, you can go first. I know you've been kind of driving the Jalen Morton hype train all year.
No, I hope all the guys who are in the IFA that are about to be stuck in Mexico with nothing are happy, that they turned down AF1 offers, because this is the truth. This league is amazing. This is the top tier competition. I know people want to run to Mexico, run to Europe, play against low level, 37-year-old washed up dads. But instead, Jalen Morton is here competing against the best. And Coach Thomas, like I said, that's my boy. Like, he's one-on-one. He knows how to develop talent. I think this is the 8th guy he set back up. 2 kinds is a real thing in Southwest. It's a real thing. And I hope players who are free agents in the offseason see that. He's going to push you hard. And so I think Jalen Morton I hope he goes to Birmingham. My only thing with the UFL that kind of bugs me the wrong way is, like, they have their guys, you know what I mean? And even if he comes in and performs, because he hasn't been, even though he was in that system, they do have a new OC there. So it's kind of, he doesn't really have an opportunity to get up to speed that quick with only 3. I think they only have like 3 games left. And Matt Corral Alex Magoo might come back. So he'll get, hypothetically pushed out. But I do think I look at Andrew Peasley, and he's a great quarterback, but there's nothing he can do that Jalen Morton can't do, in my opinion. And I think Jalen Morton is a stud. But yeah, no, I'm happy for him. I think the AF1 is great. I tell all my free agent guys, like, this is where you want to be for that reason. So he's going to ball out for sure, wherever he goes.
Slight correction. 9th guy to go outside. Just know I happened to do the math earlier this week for the article I wrote on Southwest Kansas Storm.
So are you counting the player that ran over to Mexico, Brian Hughes, or no?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
How has the DB from Southwest not got a UFL offer, number 4? He is one of the best DBs I done seen. Like, oh my God.
I can see the UFL not going back that direction. He was actually on the Roughnecks at one point, got let go when the draft happened, but the CFL makes no sense to me. He covers high motion. He's not the most athletic guy in the world, but he also does a lot of things. He's a ball hawk. Like, I have no idea how he's not in the CFL right now. And maybe he'll get a call up soon, but it's mind-blowing to me. I know he's on their radar. He's played outdoors, he's played indoors, he's played at a high level everywhere he's been. It's bizarre. So, I'm glad you brought that up, because that makes no sense to me either. TJ, what are your thoughts on Jalen Morton going up, and we'll move on to the next topic.
Yeah, I mean, he was in the running for league MVP this year, so it's no surprise. Obviously, I just got I've watched him play a decent amount this year, so I think the only thing that I could argue he could work on is completion percentage in certain games, But other than that, I mean, he's been great. And again, some of those incompletions on his resume are drops or excellent defensive plays that, you kind of put the ball there and you see what happens. So I'm happy for him. It's another good look for arena and indoor football. I do wish this was like last year's Birmingham team, though, because since they face the Roughnecks tomorrow, uh, the team from last year, they'd be up by like 20 at halftime, and then Morton might get thrown in as an option quarterback just to see what he could do. Unfortunately, this year, Birmingham's playing a lot tighter, you know, but it would be the cherry on top would be somehow, some way, he gets in and he can actually ball out on a national stage, and that would just be great. But again, I wish no bad luck or injury on anyone. But it would just be really cool to somehow, some way see Morton get in there and actually see him play with the guys outdoors. But again, congrats to him, man. That's what this sport's all about. And I'm glad you touched on the DB because a lot of people forget that part of the CFL and indoor football that they share, which is motion men. That's direct right there. So I am surprised you don't see quite a few, especially defensive backs, just direct pipeline from arena and indoor to the CFL because of that motion man concept.
Yeah,
Bingo,
and
TJ.
honestly,
Bingo.
sorry, what'd you say?
Bingo, TJ. He nailed it. Like I've been in the game for years, and I've always said, if DBs don't get a shot at the big league, they should at least get a chance at the CFL because you guard high motion most of the time. You guard stationary, the same thing you're gonna see in the CFL. But it's always the offensive guys who get the shots at the bigger leagues.
Yeah, honestly, that doesn't make any sense to me. And I mean, honestly, just for your own sake, go over to Michael Lawson's Twitter and just look at some of the highlights he's put up this year. That dude, I swear to God, he's around the ball every single play. I don't know how he manages it, but he's literally on top of the ball every chance he gets. So just a turnover machine. I think 2 years in a row now he's led the league in turnovers. So at some point he's got to get the opportunity he deserves. And honestly, hopefully it's this year. Because obviously, as we know with football players, he's not getting any younger, and obviously at a certain point, they just
and that D coordinator they got, Jason Scheich. I mean, he should be a head coach next year. He's insane. That D line plays so hard for him. Like the goal line stops that team makes consistently is so impressive. It really is.
You're not lying. That game against Billings, there was a couple goal line stops that were nuts, and same thing happened. The past few games that defense arguably has kept them in some games this year. That
it's the offense, man. They got to get a few more studs, and I think they need to go up under center.
Something tells me that's been said once or twice. I know I heard Sed Bonner talking about it on a broadcast, so I'm sure it's been discussed. I don't know if we'll ever see it though.
No, I talked to Thomas personally at meetings last year, and he said his goal is to put a new twist on the AFL.
That's awesome. That's some cool insight that I've never heard before. So we got one more topic to talk about with the AF1, and this is one that I think is a big one, at least in appearances. So that's something that I wanted to discuss. Jon Gruden joins the Nashville Cats as a part of the ownership group. So I'm curious to get your guys' thoughts on this one. Obviously, we know that Jeff Fisher, I believe, was involved in some capacity before he became commissioner. So obviously having another NFL name in that department is never a bad thing. So I'm curious to get your guys' opinions on that. Let's just go to Coach B first.
I love it, but I'm still kind of like, why are we keep building on a strong ownership group and not feeding these other new owners to help other ownership groups or bring a stable stability franchise in? So I love the idea of Jon Gruden coming, but not why not putting with another franchise that actually could use the help and the guidance?
That's fair. That's a fair point. I'm curious to see exactly what his role ends up being. That team in Nashville seems to be up and running. So, how big of an impact is he really going to have on that franchise? So that's a good question. And go
With
ahead.
our bet, you do not have a say so. So most of that is ran by our bet. So that's what I'm saying. Fisher and them really, they just there. Our bet is his show. So what effect do you got? Send him somewhere else where he has a major effect.
That's fair. Krish, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I like the point that Coach B brought up. It's just very realistic, right? Send him to a franchise like Corpus, maybe Billings. No, I think where he can have a direct impact and obviously make moves. But obviously, this is huge for appearance for the league, right? This offseason is huge for the AF1 because they want to jump the NAL, right? They want to solidify themselves as a second tier, up and coming first tier league, and they want to move the NAL down the third tier league, right? And I believe the AF1 is on track to become the second tier league because I look at how they stabilize Corpus. It's not great, but it's not Carolina. They haven't folded yet. So, you know what I mean? It's not Shreveport where players haven't been paid. At least you have some stability. So for me, I think I look at that and I applaud it. I love new owners. I love the growth of the game. We always talk about in our chat, like growing the game. This is growing the game. And Jon Gruden with Barstool, think about the content they could do at arena games. Like man, like if I'm the NAL, I'm shaking right now because that's huge for the AF1.
You have a good point. I did not think about the content side of things, and he's been very active recently. So that is a definite factor on that. And obviously, from appearances, you want to talk about attracting national sponsors. That was talked about everywhere. I saw the post on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers social media. So he hasn't been affiliated with the Buccaneers and how long, and they're posting about him being involved in football again. So that's the kind of pull that a guy like that has. At the same time, and TJ, I want to get your opinion on this as well. We know the black mark on his career. We know the reason he left the Raiders. So how much does something like that factor into these decisions? Is there a tad negative stigma about adding him, or are we just going to let that fly out the window because he's kind of done his time in the sense of being away from football since he was let go by the Raiders?
I think if you were to go through anyone's personal emails, you would find stuff. Maybe not emails, text messages, phone calls. That's just how the world. I'm just being honest. That's the world we live in. But it's terrible what he did. Honestly, like it's unacceptable, right? And I think he served his punishment. He lost his career essentially, right? And now he's building up. And this could be part of the come up for him, right? This could be a way for him to get his name back in the front and center. Let me build up Nashville and then maybe get an NFL opportunity. There's so many things. Jon Gruden, right? He's one of the best coaches in the league. Like offensively, he's one of the best. When he was coaching, and I feel good. I think they kind of moved on from this. I would love for us to go through every owner in the NAL and AF1. I gotta put both and go through and see who has accusations, who has what, because I'm sure you'll find more than maybe 1/4 that at least has something on their record. Do we want to talk about the NAL team that has an owner that owned 3 different teams and what happened to all 3, right? We're not going to mention that. I don't want to, offend any NAL people, but it's facts are facts. So
you're not wrong. You're not wrong. TJ, what were your thoughts on this?
I got to follow that, man. No, I think I think it's overall good. Obviously his scandal. Not to make light of it, but he didn't go full Kramer mode and say it live on camera and everything else. Like Krish said, it was his personal emails. Not that that's right by any means. But I feel like people, because it was more of a, I'll say loosely, discreet investigation that brought that out. from the NFL. People have kind of moved on from it a little bit. He's like you said, he's paid his dues. He's, kind of, it's time has passed. He's done some things to correct it. But from the AF1 specific standpoint, they felt that the good and the publicity and the splash from him coming to the league was going to overshadow any negativity that he brought. And for him to be with Barstool, that could be a direct pipeline to media, to extra exposure. I do agree with Coach, though. It's like Nashville is kind of like becoming this stacked operations-based team, and everybody else is kind of just like, man, can we get a famous person over here? But they are almost taking a page out of the playbook from the original AFL, which is get ex-pro guys or guys who are still maybe even associated with the NFL, in ownership, in, big and bigger roles with the teams to help drive popularity and also increase the funds that each individual team has. I think this is honestly the start of that. Jerry Kurz, he's been involved with arena football since literally day one. So I think with this league, he is pulling out all the stops and taking all the things that he found helped promote, especially the initial AFL, and he wants to keep driving it. He was also part of, a big part, driving force of the AF2. So, the correlation of, not as much money, but they were able to build up and gain popularity. And I mean, let's face it, if the original AFL does not fold, the AF2 is still going on too. And who knows if any of these other, smaller leagues are even around, because the AF2 would have filled that void. So I think them agreeing to have Jon Gruden come on, get into ownership and everything else, I think it's great for the league. It's good for the future, but you want to see what their next step is now, because after the splash of signing Jon Gruden, essentially to the league is over with, what's their next move? Or is this just going to be a one and done, and then we got to wait for the next move? So I'm interested to see where the league continues to go from this point. But all in all, I say the good outweighs the bad with Jon Gruden.
A couple comments here from Josh Cox, and again from Rebound Off the Net. Make sure you check out his content if you haven't already. Those emails were from like 2011. Society was a different place. We can't judge someone now from the standards of where society is today. It was a different time. And he said, celebrities is what made the old AFL successful, especially in the 2000s. We're already way over the time on what we've kind of allotted per league, so I don't want to take too much time on this, so I'm not going to go around the horn here. But, Josh, I just want to point out that when you're a celebrity of Jon Gruden's stature, nothing you ever do gets hidden. Nothing you ever do goes away. It's always going to be a part of your resume for the rest of your life. And as much as I hate to say it, that's how society works, especially at this level. We've seen some ugly situations with players, with coaches and stuff like that in their careers at points in time. So for us to say that we won't judge somebody on something that they did at any point in their life is just, it's an optimist view on the world. And I'm glad that you have it. I think it's the right way to look at it, because everybody makes mistakes. If a lot of us never got second chances, we wouldn't get the chances that we needed to elevate ourselves as individuals and get to the point where we are the best versions of ourselves, for a really corny way to put that. But so I think that I'm glad that you look at it like that. I just don't think that's the reality of the situation. I think that's always going to be mentioned when you mention Jon Gruden. That's always going to be the first thing that comes up, is his emails that were extremely, extremely poorly worded at the very best possible description of them. So we're going to hit a quick commercial and we'll be right back. Krish, can you take the wheel for a little bit?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, perfect. So we're moving on to IFL. Stick with us for a couple minutes and we will be right back.
So we're gonna move on to NAL. I kind of want to get y'all thoughts. Coach B, me and you have talked about this a lot. Sioux City Bandits, right? I mean, I need to hear your thoughts about the 2 new signings.
Come on, TJ. I'll let you go first on this one.
Let's specify. You mean Jeff Mack and I'm blanking the other one. Who was the other one?
Troy Evans, the receiver.
Troy.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's great signings. I'm just kind of surprised that they went younger and not more veteran. I'll just leave it at that. That's that because I'm not really 100% privy to the situation, but I've been kind of preoccupied with AF1 lately for obvious reasons.
That's fair. Okay, let's go to you, Coach B. I'm curious.
I think it was a game changer. You got a veteran in Jeff Mack. Then you get a young stud in Troy Evans, who actually is leading the lead in receiving right now. So that was a hit to Omaha. Your leading rusher and your leading receiver both lead to go to the opposing team, like your rival at that. So I think not only that, with Ben Peaster coming back healthy now, hey, they might be the team to beat right now. If they can get firing on all cylinders, that was a blow to the NAL.
That's fair for sure. I honestly think Sioux City was a quality team. They've just seemed to fall short in a couple big games, and I think that's a big reason why we see them with the record that we see them currently. So that's obviously something that needs to be improved on going forward. Krish, what are your thoughts on the moves?
So, I love my boy coaching the girl. I spent $50 just to get me a jersey to support my boy. But, he cut the best running back in the NAL. Come on now. Jeff Mack is a stud. He's a superstar. He's been that way since he was with Topeka. And I think, tonight, we'll talk about our picks later, but just know tonight, if you think Jeff Mack and Troy Evans are going to come up and hug, all the Omaha staff and be all, best friends, it was described on another program earlier this week. Omaha and Sioux City are like best friends off the field. They're not best friends. They're no best friends, man. There's a lot of respect between those two franchises, but Jeff Mack and Troy Evans are coming for blood tonight. I hope the whole country knows it's going to be real personal tonight, and I'm excited to see that. But I can't wait to talk about my picks for that game. That's going to be electric.
All right. Interesting. Okay. So let's move on to a couple other different transaction news that I think was interesting. Josh Hollins has had one of the most interesting seasons so far that I have ever seen for a quarterback. He signs with Shreveport. He's traded to Omaha. Then he's traded from Omaha back to Shreveport. What is going on with Josh Hollins? Krish, isn't he one of your clients?
Yes, he is. So Josh is one of my boys. Me and him talk daily. I have a lot of respect for him. I think he's a high character individual. But Coach B knows him. He coached him in Kansas City. But no, we talked about it. So he's going to Shreveport. He's going to be the starting quarterback there. Their quarterback got hurt. He's out for the year. That was posted earlier today with an injury. But it's a good opportunity. Again, my boy Coach McGurlin, right, looking out for his guys. He knew Hollins could have an opportunity to start somewhere else. He didn't want to hold him, even though I think Hollins can operate the offense like Lorenzo Brown can. I think, obviously, they want to keep Lorenzo. They want to go on that path. So Hollins has a great opportunity to go down to Shreveport. I was talking to him 2 days ago. And I told him, I said, you got good receivers. You got Rashad Ridley, Kayvon Samuel, number 6. That kid is special. He might be special team player of the year. He's a kick returner for Shreveport. But, he got good weapons. And I think, with the coaching change, with Pimmel and everything, he went to Omaha, and now he's with, Shreveport. So he's going to do great things. But, yeah, it's been a crazy move. And, I can't wait to see I'll leave it at that. I can't wait to see where he goes after Shreveport is over. I'm gonna leave it at that. But
Little veiled information there. Definitely interested to see what happens with him as well. Maybe he's in KC. Just saying.
I love Josh. I love Josh. Josh did great things with us last year. Stepped up big. We put up what 90 points against the Woo with Josh. So hey, it's just we don't need two quarterbacks. We got a local one and we got Cato.
That's fair. That's fair for sure. So moving on to the next trade, which is another big one. James Summers to Wheeling for Jamon Langford. And then Shreveport also added Cameron McCauley. So what are you guys' thoughts on these couple trades? And ultimately just the kind of flurry of trades all of a sudden in the National Arena League. Why do you guys think that had happened? Was it more directly related to injuries or related to Carolina shutting down? Let's go to TJ first on this one.
Oh man, James Summers he's one of those guys that gets me, excited as a football fan. Growing up a Steelers fan in the outdoor game, I got used to watching Bill Cowher, and he would sign all these slash guys, the official slash Cordell Stewart, Hines Ward, Antoine Randall. James Summers kind of has the same general history. In high school, he played quarterback. In college, he played running back. Now he's listed as wide receiver and DB. I mean, I'm not saying get ready for trick plays, but he has a lot of talent, and it was a huge signing for Wheeling. I'm looking for him to make a huge splash with Wheeling and really kind of put them possibly into the playoff push.
Quick comment real quick before we move on to the next person. Organizations always talk about doing what is the best interest of the players, allowing them to leave and go play other places without holding them back, but seldomly follow through with that because they are afraid of facing them later on. Omaha is not one of those organizations. Great point. And honestly, I'm happy to see that. Let's be honest. I don't want to speak illy of indoor football at all, but these guys are not making millions. A lot of them are not doing it to sit on a bench. And I'm not saying that they're obviously you need depth on a team. So somebody has to sit on the bench at some point. But, if there's a situation that makes sense for both parties, like it did in this case, you make that move. And honestly, I love the fact that you're thinking about the human element in a move like that. Obviously Hollins is good enough to start. Shreveport needs a quarterback. They just lost theirs to a broken arm. He's done for the season. So, I mean, it makes sense for everybody involved. And I think
even that. I think Ricky and them was thinking about the league as a whole at that point. You know what I mean? So whatever's best for the league, because hey, like he said, we stacked. We can manage, but these other teams might can compete with these players. So I think it was a good move. And like you said, why hold somebody back? If they gonna if it's better for a player, they're not making millions, they're making a couple $100, a few hundred. So it ain't like I hate when coaches say, "Oh, if he leave or if he want to release, I'm not gonna give it to him. Give it to that man. Let him go. It's fair."
Absolutely. He says Josh deserves to play. Getting reps and playing is in his best interest. We wish him nothing but the best. Hollins is a great kid.
right. Ricky also knows the D line is stacked, and Shreveport's O line is what it is. So I mean, when they play each other, I'm just being honest. Like you know what I mean? Like it's one of those moves where it's great they're doing it for the player, but the coaching staff is not going to trade a player without really going through that evaluation process. So I'm sure there was that part of it too, which is great.
Of course. And I mean, honestly, that's obviously he's not getting traded if he's the guy who's going to start for you, right? So, obviously that factors in. So I agree that the evaluation process definitely designated that he was going to be the quarterback too. So why not give him an opportunity somewhere else, which I like a lot. So, I wish more teams at this level understood that and kind of operated with that. But, I get it. I get the thought process that at the end of the day, it is professional football, so you don't want to necessarily give any team an advantage and then turn around and have to face them later and get beat by a player you once traded away. There's only so many people in the world that would potentially subject themselves to that. So that is one side of this to look at. Coach B, you're one?
Hey, you're going to have to out-coach me, baby.
There you go.
Out-coach my team.
There you go. I like that. So we have one more topic to discuss about the National and Arena League, and this is the one that really kind of got everybody talking this past week. But before we do that, I want to remind everybody there is a question of the day today, and that question is, which of the 3 undefeated teams, one in the IFL, one in the NAL, one in the AF1, will be the last standing, the last one to go undefeated or put the first blemish on their record. And then also, if those 3 teams faced each other in kind of a tournament of sorts, which team would come out on top? Give us those answers in the chat. Definitely want to get to those. And then we also have a poll that I put up earlier this week that we're going to put the results up as well. But the last NAL subject is this page right here, the Monroe Gators. This page popped up a couple days ago. Everybody started talking about it immediately. I had it sent to me by like 3 or 4 different people, and they were asking me if I knew anything about them. The truth is, I didn't at the time. So naturally, I did what I feel every journalist should do. I started asking people within the league, and started asking them, is it true? Is this a team that we need to keep an eye out for? Could it happen? That type of stuff. And I got some good answers, and I want to share them with you today. The Monroe Gators are apparently considering or wanting to join the NAL. They posted on their page, which you just noticed as I was scrolling through, it's no longer there, that they were going to be joining the NAL in 2026. So it's probably no longer there because they weren't yet supposed to announce anything like that. So, and technically have not, to my knowledge, even applied yet. So they may not even be allowed into the NAL. A move similar to, some things we saw this offseason with the AF1. And honestly, I believe there was an NAL team that announced or kind of alluded to joining the NAL that never ended up with them. So there's been a couple situations like this, but from what I understand, there is some legitimacy to this team. It is an actual team trying to get off the ground, but they have not yet joined the NAL, and they might not join the NAL. So there is a situation where they still have to go through an application process. They still have to pass all the vetting of the ownership group and all of that in order to get to that point. But as of right now, they are not an official NAL team yet. So with that information in mind, fellas, what do you think about the fact that we now know that there's a prospective NAL franchise out there, the Monroe Gators, that are going to be applying, where at least the thought is that they're going to be applying for NAL entrance in 2026?
I think it's good. You have a team in Shreveport, right? It's near, team in Texas with Beaumont. I mean, I don't understand why we're putting teams in cities that are crime-filled. Monroe is 2nd per capita in the country in crime. So, I mean, I don't want my players in harm's way, but I think it's good. I think, again, Louisiana is a great football state. I love that logo, by the way. I love the logo. I know they had a logo designer. That looks like AI all the way. And whoever made that logo deserves a raise. That's a great logo. I want merch with that logo. So, I mean, I hope they make it through. I want to know who the ownership is. It's kind of hard for me to make a determination if they're going to play a 2026 season if they don't have the right ownership. It could be a, Hector Garcia rebrand. So we don't know, until we figure out what the ownership is. But I hope they work out. They shouldn't have put that out there, though. I don't know why they put it out there, that they were joining a league without the league putting that out first. I don't know if that was a miscommunication or it was a bad PR, but that was unprofessional in my opinion. So that they're off to a rough start in my book.
Agreed. Agreed. TJ, let me get your thoughts and I'll weigh in.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of came out of nowhere. So I started kind of searching Facebook and their page and stuff like that. Saw some things that were, kind of un not that it just wasn't a good look by them. Supposedly they may owe some money already to the designer of these images that Krish said deserves a raise. So, but yeah, I mean, other than that, they're kind of a mystery team. I know personally from spending some time in the NAL that they do not, like I'd assume most leagues, do not take kindly to teams kind of jumping the gun and the reins and saying, "Oh yeah, we're going to be in this." Similar thing happened with the Jersey team back when I was coaching in the NAL. So, and obviously they didn't like it, and the Jersey team ended up not being a part of the NAL that year. So I'm assuming that has everything to do with why they took that post down. Other than that, location wise, it would work out for shorter travels. But again, we'll see what goes on because right now they're kind of just a logo and a Facebook page and a lot of people talking. So I'd like them to come out, go through the proper channels, and if they do start going through the process to join the NAL, release a bunch of information, get to know us section or something. That way they can get themselves out there instead of just prematurely putting out a post saying, "Hey, we should be in the NAL this upcoming season."
Well,
Uh,
that's
if I
good.
can make one point,
Go ahead.
I love what TJ said about the get to know you. The Stockton Crusaders get so much shit, but they put out a page with all their staff members. Remember that on their website where they had like the vice president, president, and they explained each role in their background. I think every team should do that. I just like that idea. So
No, you had a great point, and I'm glad you brought that up before I got into my port because I think the Stockton Crusaders are a great example of how you should try and start a franchise. So we'll get to that in a minute, but with this situation, I think obviously Monroe makes a lot of sense for the NAL for obvious reasons. You kind of bridge the gap from Louisiana to a lot of other states. Obviously you got, as Krish mentioned, you got Beaumont, you got Shreveport, you got all these different teams where it's going to help travel wise to have another team. And maybe this even helps, a team like Carolina come back because, if they have more partners that are in their area, it reduces costs for the future in terms of travel. So maybe they can, it's more feasible for them to come back and make it work, which we all here hope they do at Shady Sports. We're huge Carolina Cobra fans, have been for a while. So hoping they come back. But to Krish's point about the way that Stockton has done it, a lot of those people were involved in the IFL at one point. They were involved with the Bay Area Panthers when they started, and they understand that it's better to do things right the first time than to take a swing and miss and ended up having to go dormant because you might crater any chance you have of having success in that market if you do that. So they've put off now 2 seasons, I believe, because they were mentioned in 2024. They ultimately did not join the league in 2024, if I remember correctly. And then they've been slowly building their presence online ever since. They were announced in 2025, which I wish they had not been announced because honestly, I think if they just kept doing what they're doing on social media without saying that they were going to be joining a league for 2025, they'd just be sitting there building a following quietly, on the sideline until they actually get to the field of play. So, yeah, that was kind of a black mark, but at the same time, they have explicitly told me they will only be joining a league when they are financially viable and ready to compete in the proper manner. So I think what happened is they reevaluated their situation in terms of financial backing. They determined that they were not in a situation where it would make sense for them to continue without more help in that department. And ultimately, as if you think that, you should not kick off a season because otherwise you're just going to cause issues for your team, for the league, for the players, for the coaches, et cetera, et cetera. So, honestly, I think that's a great point. And I hope that when and if Monroe gets off the ground, they're doing it in the very same basis. And that's why they wanted to get these posts out here early, to start building that fan base for 2026, to start getting sponsorships on board, to be like, hey, we're here. We're going to be in this league. Look, they're on Right Now TV. They've got, good backing on YouTube. They're an established league. They've been around for many years. Like, this is all the reasons why you should support us and help us going forward. But it's ultimately a situation where, they jumped the gun a little bit, and they obviously got a slap on the wrist. That's why that post was taken down, like TJ said. So definitely interested to see how things go going forward for Monroe, and hopefully they do end up in the league next season.
I'm really interested that we didn't see, I don't know if has anyone seen Brandon Acard for the NAL. I haven't seen him since he called out my rankings unfairly. But no, I think he's really good. He's really, really good at writing press releases. When he was with the AIF, even during tough times, he wrote really good press releases. So I wonder, what's going on with him. Is he even still involved with the league? It's hard to tell nowadays with the NAL, but I'm excited. I really hope Monroe gets a team. Like I said, I'm buying merch if they get the team. But yeah, that's just my thoughts on it.
I completely agree, and I hope it happens because, again, that makes it easier for some of the other teams in those areas to compete and make it a little bit cheaper. So let's move on to the last subject of the day and the subject of our polls that I wanted to get with you. I mean, obviously, as we've discussed in multiple times this episode, the question of the day was which undefeated team will be the last standing without a blemish on their record? Quad City, Albany, or Beaumont, and if these three teams played each other, who would come out on top? So while I pull up the poll, let's get your guys' answers. Let's start with Coach B on this one.
It's tough. I ain't gonna lie, Beaumont has been a sleeper this year, and they've shown they know how to win at any cost. But Albany has too, and they've done it week in and week out. You can't count them out. Quad City just got injuries right now, man, and it's hard. So I would say Albany. And if all three played, I will give the edge to Albany still.
That's fair. Krish, can you take the wheel again on this one, and I'll come back in just a minute?
Yeah, we'll finish up with this and we'll do our picks after because I need to see what everyone is on this week. But so Albany, I say, and I agree with you, Coach B, but it's because of their O-line and D-line. That O-line for Albany is one of the best O-lines it's not better than ours in Mass, honestly, but it's top tier. That D-line is insane. Size-wise, they got dogs from Joshua Zacher, number 65, on that O-line. He's huge. I mean, they got beasts, so I'm excited, I think. And then they have McAllister. That O-line and D-line would outpower anything that Beaumont had or Quad Cities. But that's my opinion. TJ, what do you got for that?
Yeah, I would say Albany as well. And honestly, head to head as well, Albany. If Quad City didn't have injuries, I would say it would be a very close, probably fight between those two. But with the injuries and everything, Albany, they're overall healthier. They have, great head coach in Damon Ware. I mean, Sam Castronova, living, we've discussed it in the past, living legend at quarterback in the arena and indoor ranks. So I'd have to give it to Albany as much as it makes me feel like a salty Billings fan. I got to give it to them. They're on fire, and they're definitely the team to beat this year.
While we talk about NAL for a little bit, I need to get y'all's MVPs predictions. TJ, we'll start with you. Who do you got winning MVP of the NAL?
MVP of the NAL. I don't know, man. It's a tough call. You got a couple of guys who are balling out this year. I'm going to take the cheap way out and say it's going to be probably a quarterback because, leagues always pick offensive and quarterbacks. Defense gets no love.
What about you, Coach B?
If they keep playing the way they do and find a way to end up in the championship game, whether they win or lose, I think it is Beaumont's quarterback.
I would be really curious to see how the NAL does awards this year. I don't know if they don't do a fan vote. I don't know. They're probably like picking in some owner's basement. But I think Carl Robinson the third from Beaumont. Like I know, I'm telling you right now, and I'm gonna put this out there publicly. All the coaches in the NAL can't stand the fact that a rookie quarterback might win MVP on an expansion team. It drives them nuts. They want to give it to Lorenzo Brown, James Summers, any of these like old veterans. Carl Robinson deserves Rookie of the Year. If you look at it, touchdown to interception, he has a 72% completion percentage. He is MVP of this league. And I even heard like Coach Rez talking about, oh, you could argue that he's MVP. Nah, Coach Rez, there ain't no argument. He is MVP, and he's about to prove that tonight. So I'm excited, man. Like I just think he's MVP and Coach of the Year. It's hard for me because NAL will not give MVP and Coach of the Year from the same team. So Coach of the Year for me, it has to be Coach Mayfred. But
it has to be.
It has to be, but I don't think they can do it from the same team. I really don't. Like
you can do whatever you want to do. Can't in a man or a woman's vocabulary. You can do what you need to do.
These were undefeated, and Tommy Armstrong was leading the league in total touchdowns by a wide margin. They didn't give it to Tommy, right? No, they gave it to Tommy. They didn't give it to Mike Tatum. So that's my thing. They have to give it to someone else different, and so they probably will end up giving it to Fred Shaw. I'm telling you, they're gonna give it to Fred Shaw. I'm telling you, watch them find a way to give it to Fred Shaw. I'm telling you, the league is obsessed with Fred Shaw. They think he's like the face of the league. They think he's like, I don't know, Larry Bird. Like they think he's
no way, Jose.
Watch them give it to Robinson and Fred Shaw. I'm telling you, they're not gonna give it to both. It shouldn't be that way. Fred should win Coach of the Year, but they're gonna give it to Fred Shaw. Watch.
I mean, in terms of MVP voting, the NAL kind of has a hard time doing that this year with all the, essentially replacement games they played. So how heavy do you lean on those stats from those games compared to in-league games, or do you only count in-league stats? It's going to be a little bit of a process this year for me, in my opinion, for the NAL.
But what other player other than Sam Hammond from Colorado, they're not going to give it to a defensive player, even though he has 10.5 sacks. They're not going to give it to a defense. I promise you they won't. So offensively, who else fits in that conversation, right? Like who else is at his level? Giovanni Sanders is second in the league in passing yards. He has 11 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. You can't give it to him, right? He's out of the conversation. So that only leads, Robinson or Zuri Davis, the receiver. But even then, it's like, the offensive player of the year, it will go to a receiver, I think. And I think Kyler Henson from Idaho might win offensive player of the year. But yeah, they can't give it. They won't. And it's not, like I said, it's not like they should. They should give it to the most deserving. But the way these leagues operate, especially the NAL, they're not going to give 2 awards from the same team. They won't. So Fred Shaw is going to be Coach of the Year. Watch.
We got to wait and see, man. We got to wait and see. It's only a waiting game now from here on out.
But it's going to be exciting. No, I'm excited for tonight. I kind of want to get you guys' thoughts on Wheeling and Beaumont tonight before we get into picks. But Wheeling and Beaumont, Coach B, who you got winning, and what's your final score prediction?
Honestly, I got Beaumont winning. No disrespect to Rez, because Rez and them doing a hell of a thing up there. Like they balling and they hot. I think they just needed a little bit of, you know what I'm saying, umph to get them going. And like what you said, the trades they got that might help them out. So it's gonna be a good game, and it's gonna come down to I think whoever is ahead after the third quarter, that's who's gonna win the game.
I think Coach Rez doesn't get enough credit, for how he's built Wheeling on a business side. I know a lot of people want to kind of, jab on him on the field, like, oh, they're 2-4, they're not performing. But he's built that team to be sustainable for years to come. So I got to give Coach Rez credit. Coach Rez, if you're watching this, I know obviously, I know you get a lot of flack, but I think you do a great job in Wheeling. I got a lot of respect for him and how he runs the program. I think he's front runner for Executive of the Year. I think him and Ricky Burtz are tied right now for Executive of the Year, and I'm excited to see who ends up winning that prestigious award. But no, for me, I think Beaumont has it tonight. I think Beaumont, they got Eric Young, the running back. I told Coach B about Eric Young week 1. I said Eric Young is a superstar. He's been used in the pass blocking game a lot, but he's going to ball out tonight, and they're going to win. And I think Beaumont's going to win by 10 points. I'm sorry, CJ, but Beaumont is winning tonight.
Wow. CJ just disowned you. Just got the message. He said, get off the bus, the Wheeling bus. You're not allowed on anymore. Honestly, man, this is going to be a tough game. I'll say that much. I have a lot of respect for Coach Rosignaldo and the entire Wheeling team, but Beaumont looks dangerous. They look like the best team in the league right now, and I don't think it's really, honestly, as much as I hate to say this, I don't think it's very close. They're just on another level right now, and I'm not saying things can't change. Injuries happen, guys leave, they get called up, stuff like that. So, this time 2 weeks from now, we could be talking about how they had a mass exodus of players. But right now, they look like the toughest team in the league to beat. So I don't know. I hate to pick against Wheeling, but I'm also picking Beaumont this week. So I'm curious to see exactly how this game goes. But it might be the game of the week, to be honest.
Let's go.
Yeah, man, CJ, I got you. I picked Wheeling in the upset.
Come on, you picked Wheeling last week. You were like all on Wheeling, and I said it in our chat. I said Colorado's winning, and I hate to do this to CJ. For those who don't know, CJ Kane, offensive lineman, number 55. He's one of the best centers. I think he is the best center in the NAL. He's dominant. But he's a great player. But he's one player. You know what I'm saying? Like I think Beaumont. I'm telling you, Beaumont's gonna win tonight. I want to do our betting.
Retribution from Krish.
Do we have our spreads that we can do for
Yeah, we can do that. Let's do picks real quick, then we'll do betting, and then we'll get out of here because we're already at 2 hours. So much for shortening down the show this week. I knew this one was going to be a lot of topics. So yeah, let's go ahead and do picks real quick. I'm going to pull up the picks that I got from everybody real quick, change things up a bit on you guys. And while we do that, let's just go ahead and go down the list. TJ, who did you pick this week?
Which league?
Let's go IFL.
IFL, I picked Quad City over Green Bay, Tulsa over Iowa, Bay Area over Arizona, Sugar Skulls over the Pirates, of course, Las Vegas over San Antonio, and then the Strike Force over the Wranglers.
Yep, definite guaranteed win in Tucson.
That's what I'm saying, man. That's what I'm saying.
Krish, who did you pick this week?
Yeah, so for IFL, let me pull it up. So I picked Green Bay to beat Quad City. I beat Tulsa to beat Iowa. I picked Bay Area to beat Arizona. San Antonio and Vegas. I love you, Coach Fuller, but I got to go with Vegas. Tucson and Arizona. Tucson versus Massachusetts versus us. Coach Back, I got a lot of respect for you. You're one of the best. But we got that belt in hand. So it's about to be real scary tonight. And I'm so excited, man. Me and Coach Anson, Anson Yarbo, D-line, O-line coach. That's one of my boys, but he's about to get the smoke tonight. So we got them. We'll beat them by like 20. And then Naz and San Diego. San Diego, I think by 14. So, yeah.
By 14?
Yeah, San Diego by 14 points. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Have you seen that Naz D-line? That D-line is sorry, man. That D-line is something out of a horror movie. But
okay. I mean, we'll have to get to the spread on that, and I have a feeling that'll be your lock of the week because they've got a pretty good spread there. And I guess it's in San Diego, but man, by 14 seems like a lot. Coach B, have you looked at these games at all? You want to give us your picks? You don't have to.
I got Green Bay. I got Tulsa, Bay Area, Vegas. And then I'm going to go with Mass and San Diego.
Definitely. Awesome. I think those are solid picks. Let me pull up my picks real quick because I do not remember right off the top of my head. All right. I picked definitely picked Green Bay. I went back and forth for a minute due to the injuries in Quad City and ultimately picked Green Bay. Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, I did put Quad City. I stand corrected. I put Quad City. I picked Tulsa at home, Bay Area, on the road versus Arizona. That's a tough game. I could see Arizona pulling that one out. I've got Vegas at home, San Diego at home as well. This just seems like a pretty cut and dry week. That Bay Area Arizona game, I think it's actually considered a pick 'em on the betting website. So we'll get to that here shortly. But that's honestly the hardest game for me to pick right now. It's so evenly matched. But we'll move on to the National Arena League next. And here's the schedule for the NAL. You got Shreveport versus Columbus, Beaumont versus Wheeling, and Omaha versus Sioux City. Let's go to TJ first on this one as well.
Yeah, I picked Shreveport, Wheeling, and Omaha.
Oh, okay. So I'll go with mine. Ooh, okay. So for me, Shreveport is getting slept on like hell against Columbus. I think Shreveport can beat Columbus. Columbus has been the most disappointing team in all of arena indoor football this year, in my opinion. They have been an absolute dumpster fire. The fact they can't win games. I'm sorry, Casey, you're my boy, but it's hard, man. It's hard to watch Columbus. Nah, Shreveport, man. I think Coach Russ, he took over as head coach. I'm talking about Coach Russ, not owner Russ. We're not going to talk about owner. We're going to talk about the coach. But the coach, I think he's done an admirable job. 54 points. My only concern, and I know you all, I'm going to hurt you all by saying this, and I really mean this in a positive way. Daenerys Antoine is a liability at the linebacker position. He's a liability. At running back, he's insane, but he could not play both in the indoor game. He cannot. If you watch any of the film, he's a liability at linebacker. They need to find another linebacker because he's too gassed. He can't play both. You watch, turn on the tape, and you'll see I'm right. Shreveport's winning this game, though. So Shreveport by 7 points. Beaumont and Wheeling. I like Beaumont, like I said earlier, by 7. It's going to be a fun game. That Wheeling D-line is not built for it against Beaumont O-line. Omaha and Sioux City. Coach Negron, you're my boy, just like Daenerys Antoine and my boy. I got to tell you how it is. Tonight, I appreciate the jersey. I appreciate everything. But tonight, it's going to be Sioux City. Sioux City winning this game. and they're going to win by 7 to 10 points. Jeff Mack and Troy Evans are coming for blood. I like Sioux City tonight.
Looks like it's on me now, huh?
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna start from the bottom and go up. I have a upset in this game with Sioux City winning, and it's not Jeff Mack and them might do their thing, but I think it's the other running back who gonna show up and show out again. What's his name? Pasca.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pro Haska.
Yeah, him. He's a X factor, bro. And don't sleep on Lobden in that defense because they're gonna come with some thump. So I'm going with Beaumont by 14, Sioux City by 12. Just because it's gonna be a heated game and at the end heads might prevail. And I'm gonna go with the sleeper with Columbus Lions and Casey over Shreveport.
Okay. Definitely interesting picks for sure. Gotta bust out some sound effects occasionally. Oh crap, it's on loop. I apologize. So yeah, I actually went with Omaha. I picked Beaumont and also Columbus. I like a lot of things Shreveport's doing. I think they're going to be a lot better with Hollins at the helm, but I just don't see them beating Columbus in this one. And I think Columbus kind of needs this game to prove they can beat NAL opponents across the board as well. Okay, so let's transition over to the AF1 games. Give me just a second. I did not have that one pulled up. Any final thoughts on these games before we move on?
It's gonna be a shootout tonight, baby.
Yes,
I think Beaumont and Wheeling might get feisty. Like I'm expecting.
I can see that happening. That's why I said it.
Oh man, Reds and Solo. Oh man, they might square up midfield, but it's gonna be fun.
Krish, weren't you at one point singing the praises of Denarius Antoine as a linebacker? Earlier this season?
Absolutely.
But he said he's gassed, though, playing both ways. He didn't say he was a bad linebacker. He said he's gassed.
I ranked him top 5 in my Swiss Army knife list. I can own it. I can own my rankings. I'm not, paid propaganda. So I can own my rankings. I messed up maybe, but he's a great running back. He's just not a linebacker.
All right. No shots at anybody there. It just, Krish being Krish. Let's move on to the AF1 games. We got 3 good games tonight. As we all know, Southwest Kansas on a bye. Perfect timing for their quarterback to leave, I suppose. So we got some good games in the AF1. I think Nashville and Albany is going to be a great game. I think Washington and Billings is going to be a great game. And Corpus Christi and Oregon should be a fairly good game, especially now that Corpus Christi is kind of rebuilding that team on the fly. Probably a little bit cheaper players, but seems like they've got a solid roster in tow. So we'll see how things go. There are some reports that Fred Payton is apparently staying with Corpus Christi, although they did bring in quarterback Nick Eilers, who has been around the block. He's got experience. He can definitely come in and play. And it's not going to be a defensive back playing quarterback. So that's a huge step up. So let's go to Coach B on this one first. Who do you have in this week's games?
Albany. Much as I like Arbet and them, what they doing right now, I got Albany. They just hot. And you gotta beat them in the trenches. Billings over Washington. I just don't think no shot. I just don't think Washington got the coaching staff to outbeat Walker right now, and I don't see them winning it. Oregon with Coach Jones and them over Corpus, even though Corpus revamped, they're not the same Corpus, and it's Oregon might have a little bit more oomph than them.
That's fair. That's fair for sure. Krish, what are your picks this week?
Can I just say, I love Tyler Coca. I love him. I think he's a great quarterback. It drives me nuts when I see him post IFA. Like, bro, leave. If you're going to disrespect Nashville like that, you have a great opportunity to be a starter, with the Cats, premier organization, and you want to post Huntsville Hero. Like, bro, no. Like, make up your mind. Be 2 feet in or both feet out. So I don't appreciate that at all, to be honest. I think, and again, he's a talented player. That's why I want him to stay. Because if he stays, he wins Rookie of the Year. So don't do that, man. Like, you gotta, there's a saying that we use up my way. It's called respect the game. And I don't think Tyler Coker has fully respected the arena game. And tonight, that Albany D-line, that's going to be the best defense he's ever faced. Give me Albany by 21 points tonight. For Billings and Washington, my boy Malik is about to have a field day with that defense. I think he's going to go for five touchdowns, 200 yards. He's going to have a great game under center. I'm so excited. Outline Nation, you got a great one. Darius Prince, I said this before, Luke Miller or my guy Off the Wall says anything. Darius Prince is having 200 yards. He's going to have a monster game tonight. He's going to prove that he's still the best. Oregon at Corpus. So I got some exciting news. My guy Shady put me on in the CB preseason named Darren Bowles. He's from Kansas State. He's since become a client of mine. He's making his debut on Monday night. First time in 3 years back on the field. He was amazing at Wingate. He led the team in tackles. Really good D2 school. He was number all conference. I'm so excited for him. He's so ready to get back out there. And he guaranteed me he's getting a pick 6 this week. So it's a big week for him. Big debut. I think Oregon and Coach Jones. I love Coach Jones. I really do. I have so much respect for him. He's I hear he does so much for the players. We got Richie Anderson returning to Oregon, which is going to be fun. But I like Oregon by give me Oregon by like 25. So, yeah.
Way to go, Deron Bowles. Congratulations, sir. We're excited for you. Been a huge supporter of the network, so excited to see him get an opportunity. TJ, what are your picks in this week?
My picks are don't sleep on Nashville, but this week it's all Albany. Then, of course, I'm going with Billings over Washington. And I got to go with Oregon just because Corpus Christi is still rebuilding. I think it'll be a much better showing than last week, but Oregon still has the advantage.
Okay, fair enough. I've also got Albany, Billings, and Oregon in these 3 games. I think Corpus Christi throwing it together on the fly is going to be a challenge. They're probably going to take a week or two to get in any sort of momentum going again. You replace that much of your roster midseason, it's tough. Billings, I think Malik is going to come out hot. He obviously has something to prove after getting let go from San Antonio. He probably honestly fits an under center offense better than he fits the shotgun style in the IFL. And then as far as Albany and Nashville, I've definitely got Albany winning that game. Although I think it's going to be close. I do not see a 21-point deficit in this game at all. But that's my personal opinion.
Didn't you say Southwest Kansas was going to lose by like 2 points to Albany? I thought you said, it's going to be really close. They're going to cover the spread. I think the spread was like 4.5. They lost by 58. So it's the same thing here. I think Nashville is going to get destroyed tonight.
Yeah, but you also picked Nashville to beat Southwest Kansas, and you picked, who was week 2? Like Washington to beat Southwest Kansas too.
Yeah,
so
I know. I did not pick I picked Nashville because they said Shakai Holiness was going to be active, and they scratched him an hour before kickoff. That changed the momentum of the game. Trust me. Alex Heil, you know how I feel about your center. Don't even get me started, man. I don't want to do that to Coach Thomas, but we won't even go down that road.
Doesn't Holiness play defensive end? Like, what does that have to do with the center?
The whole point is like trust me, he elevates that D line from a hole. He's one of them ones.
I won't argue that.
They got Coach B's project, Isaiah McFarland. Oh my God. Trust me. This Nashville defense is different now.
No, Nashville's got a solid defense. I'm not making an argument on that, but you're the one that just said it was going to be a 21 point deficit, not me.
Yes,
So,
it is 21 points. Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see, I guess. That's one that I definitely don't agree on, but that's just me. And I got this for you. But figure I'll bust out some of these sound effects that I've had on here forever and never use. But moving on into the picks, the last segment of the show. If you're, degenerate gamblers like Krish and TJ here, this is a segment of the show where we tell you how to win some money betting on indoor football or arena football. As always, this segment is brought to you by YouTube TV. Link is in the chat. So again, if anybody who's not aware, you can find the betting for the IFL on DraftKings. You can also find the betting for the AF1 on Bettor's Edge. Bettor's Edge is not a traditional betting site. It is a bet. How do I even want to? It's a betting market. So essentially, you go on there, and if people have bet on a topic, you can bet against them, and vice versa. You can bet on a topic, but you have to have somebody bet against you in order for it to make sense and cash out. So it's not betting against a house per se. Go ahead, fellas. Sorry, let me pull up the stats. My bad. Let me run a quick commercial, and we'll be right back with the picks.
Get in the game at BetUS, America's favorite sportsbook. Over 50 sports, live betting, online casino, horse racing, esports, and more. Start now and enjoy easy deposits, fastest payouts, and the biggest bonuses. And for over 25 years, BetUS is a name you can trust. Mention TV 150 now and get up to 150% in bonuses. BetUS, we've got your game. Call or visit BetUS.com now to join.
One of these days, I'm going to have to talk BetUS into getting indoor football in there so, we can properly promote them on this show. But, yeah, BetUS is our betting partner for all major league sports. They do not have arena football on there yet. Let's pull up these odds for the AF1 first. Actually, it looks like there's a good amount of bets this week. Typically, it seems like there's only one or two a week, but this week there's some definite liquidity in there. And we can kind of go ahead and take a look here. So they've actually got $208 on 6 orders for Albany not winning, it looks like. And then you've got one $10 order against Billings. Oh, these are winners. I apologize. Give me a second. I don't bet on Bettor's Edge, so I will have to figure out how I can pull that up. I apologize. Definitely not the better here. So let's go to DraftKings. So here's DraftKings. This one I know how to operate. Let's go ahead and go down these picks. Who are your locks of the week for the IFL, TJ?
My locks would be a parlay with the Panthers money line, Vegas money line, and San Diego minus 10.5.
Interesting. Okay, that's a good pick. Interesting. Krish, what are your picks on this one?
Yeah, before I start, just want to say anyone like Jonathan Bain, Brandon Acard, anyone who questioned my rankings, quit fucking with me. I had 11-1 ranking pick last week. I'm the most accurate picker in all of arena football. So catch me outside. But anyway,
what?
Green Bay money line. I like Tulsa minus 6.5. I like Vegas. Sorry, Coach Fuller, minus 4.5. Okay, whoever made us a 1.5-point favorite is so disrespectful. I don't know if Billy Back's parents work for DraftKings or what, but that is so horrendously bad. And I cannot believe the way this industry, it's the way the IFL, the industry, the fans, everyone treats us with a lack of respect. Okay? We are one of the top franchises in all of the country. So give me Massachusetts, man. Hammer the alternate spread. Give me 15, 20, 25. I don't care. Massachusetts money line. And give me the under. And then Bay Area and Arizona, I want the over 86.5.
There's your Krish take of the day. I don't even know what to say about all that. That's man. All right. Moving on to the AF1. Here are the odds. I apologize about my my lack of understanding on how to operate this website. So here we go. We got the AF1 games up. Nashville, Albany, 93.5 point over under. That's a lot of points, but Albany and Salina just went over 90 last week. And then also you got a 6.5 point spread. Albany's the favorite at home. And then you got Washington and Billings, 12.5 point spread, 78.5 over under. And then Monday, I forgot it was a Monday night game. Corpus versus Oregon is a 3.5 point spread, which honestly feels a little disrespectful to Oregon at the moment, but I get it. 81.5 point over under. So let's go to TJ first on this one again. What are your locks of the week for the AF1?
I mean, yeah, Albany minus 6.5, and I'd probably go with the under. Because you figure even if Albany does have a big outpouring of points again, how much is Nashville really going to get against their defense? For the Corpus Christi, Oregon, I would take Oregon minus 3.5.
Sorry about
And
that.
Billings, yeah, kind of jumping on me there.
My mistake.
And then, Outlaws, I would take Billings, but I don't know. I don't know. I kind of see it being a little bit closer. I can see Washington hitting the spread, but Billings still winning by 8 to 10 points. And honestly, for that game, 78.5. I'd go the over since it's 78.5.
Krish, locks of the week for AF1 for you?
Yeah, I think I'm the same person that said Albany was going to be Billings by 21. And I think Adam, Luke Miller, what's the Pookie, the guy in the chat, man, they all question me. They're like, oh, man, how could you say that? You're crazy. And they won by 40. So just keep that in mind. Anyway, Albany is winning this game. They're covering the spread, 6.5. My guy, Coach Ware, is ready to get active tonight. I hope you know. I hope the whole country knows Albany's going to win this game. Billings and Washington. I love you, Akil, but get ready to do some cardio tonight because all you're going to be doing is running up and down that field. You know what I'm saying? Offensive line is not going to be able to keep up with that Billings D-line. Malik is going to go crazy. Give me Billings by 40. So they're going to definitely cover that spread. And then Oregon and Corpus Christi. Who does these spreads? Really? That's so disrespectful to Coach Jones. You're telling me Coach Jones is not going to beat a replacement team? Come on, really? Coach Jones, give me Oregon by 17. I like Oregon by 17.
Well, I don't know that they're necessarily replacement players at this point, but I see your point. I had a really good meme for you, and I was going to pull it up, but I can't get it to come on here because it's not a JPEG. But another time, I'll have it prepared for next week. So the topic of the day, or the question of the day, I guess I should say, is the question that I asked early on. I'll re-ask it just so everybody who's here watching now can weigh in on this one. There are 3 undefeated teams left, 1 in each league. We've got Beaumont Renegades in the NAL, we've got the City Steamwheelers in the IFL, and then we've got the Albany Firebirds in the AF1. The question is, which one of them will be the last to lose a game? And a secondary question to this is, who would win if they were facing each other? So we ran a poll on Facebook and on Twitter this past week, and the results are kind of surprising. Most people believe that Albany will be the last one standing. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up those results for you to see on the poll right here. 63% believe that Albany is going to be the team left standing last with no losses. And then that's just on Twitter. I know that says 27 votes. It's okay. We got a little bit more votes on Facebook here. There's 88 votes in this poll, 60%. So roughly 60% of people out there that voted on this poll, a little over 105 votes, or 115 votes, I apologize. 60% of people believe Albany will be the last team standing. So I'm going to pose that same question to you guys. Who do you think will be the last team standing out of this particular group of teams? Let's go to Coach B first.
Albany.
TJ?
This sucks. Albany.
Krish?
Albany, obviously. I mean, like I told you what I thought about Quad Cities. Like, they're a good team, but they play their playoffs in the regular season. We play in August. So, Quad City, man, if you're watching, we'll see y'all boys again. And you're not ready. So, they're overrated as hell. And their defense is good. Their offense is nothing. So, we'll see y'all again. But, Albany, Coach Ware, man. Coach Ware is the real deal. Coach Ware is like the Bill Belichick of arena football. Currently. I'm not saying currently. But Coach Ware, my guy. I'm so happy for Coach Ware. I think they're going to go undefeated for sure. They're going to beat up on Corpus Christi next week. Man, I might need to call my boy Richie Anderson. Like, it's about to be bad when Albany plays Corpus next week.
I expect it to be, maybe not another 100-point drubbing, but somewhere in that realm might not be out of the realm of possibility. For anybody who's curious about total votes, we got 70 votes for Albany, we got 24 votes for Beaumont, and we got 21 votes for Quad City. So it sounds like the overwhelming majority believe Albany will be the last team undefeated. And then we also got these comments that came in, just being completely honest, Albany, and I hate to even say it because I'm a Cats guy, but Albany all the way. Project Super fan, our Tulsa fan. In my opinion, it's Albany who will stay undefeated the longest out of the three you mentioned. Big Boy Sports, I was going to say the same thing. Albany will stay unbeaten the longest. I also don't think Nate Davis really needs an IFL title. He's a Hall of Fame for sure, though very recognizable name in this sport. And then last but not least, Dave Williams, another Albany fan, believes Albany will have the last unbeaten record out of all the leagues. So definitely appreciate everybody chiming in on that poll. We got another one for you that will be coming up next week. I will post the poll later on today. This question was posed by Krish, and he wants to know, is it possible to build a consistent winning team without paying for big names? And that's honestly a loaded question. There are some teams that have found success with less salary outputs, at least expected outputs, because obviously we don't know what all these guys make, but we have a good idea, who makes more than who. Kind of just have some fun with this one. Tell us who you think it is. Tell us how you think it breaks down, what positions are important. Feel free to go in depth on this one. It should be a fun one. So we'll come back next week, next Saturday, 8 a.m. Eastern, and we will discuss that topic at the end of the show, much like we did today. So watch out for that poll, and we would appreciate your votes. Any final thoughts for today? We've been here for 2.5 hours. I think we pretty much covered every subject on the sport today. But we'll go around the horn one last time and then get out of here. Krish, where can the people find you on social media if they want to follow you and all your hot takes as well?
Yeah, so, you can follow me on Facebook, shoot me a DM, love to talk indoor ball. I just love to support all the leagues. I'm a huge fan. I'm not a homie hopper. So, I think I enjoy, supporting the league, supporting the games. I'm so excited for the TAL, the Arena League. I think he's my guy. I think we made up. Coach O'Neal, in Duluth. I can't wait. I'm so excited for week 2. Man, Kansas City Goats are they're about to beat Duluth, and that's gonna be a fun week 2 matchup. I know Coach B is
Correction. St. Joe Goats, bro. We St. Joe Goats.
Nah, you're Kansas City to me too. You gotta win a game to be called St. Joe. You gotta win a game for the community to own that name. But nah, it's TAL is gonna be awesome. Tonight I encourage everyone to tune in. The best way you can support these teams is A, buy tickets, but 2, if you don't live in the city, buy merch. Like I said, I spent $55 on this Omaha Beef shirt. My guy Ricky got it signed for me by the whole team, and I really appreciate him for that. But don't be like coming on Coach Negron's post asking for free stuff. Freebies don't work in this world, man. Go out and buy a jersey, support these teams. I'm buying a Southwest jersey. I'm gonna demand that Coach Thomas sign it for me, otherwise I'm not buying it. But no, so I'm gonna get a jersey of every team. That's my goal, is to have a nice wall behind me, of all the jerseys hung up. So just really, really excited and just enjoy the game. And tonight, whole country, Massachusetts Pirates. We got a new leader, Coach Menards. He's new to the family, but we're ready. I was talking to one of my guys last night. It's about to go down tonight. I hope the whole country's ready. Put some respect. I don't want to hear anyone, like I said to everyone in our chat, don't switch up. When we start winning games, don't be like, oh my God, the Pirates look amazing. No, it's too late. If you ever disrespected us, I have my receipts. I know who you are, man. I know who you are, Bob Book in Jacksonville. I know who you are. So don't disrespect us. We're coming for you. Oh yeah. This is the one of the assistant coaches for Tucson, man. Y'all about to get this belt tonight. I hope you're ready.
Thanks for tuning in, Coach Bennett. We appreciate you being on. TJ, any final thoughts from you? And also, where can they find you? I know you're hip on the TikTok train lately.
Yeah, on TikTok at TJ Shady Sports. I try to post every day. Do mostly indoor and arena, but definitely throw in some of the majors as well. And other than that, man, I'm just happy. It's going to be a busy Saturday with all the games going on, both outdoor and indoor. And hey, for all you wondering, this is what happens a day like this when Krish has his Wheaties in the morning. All right, he's ready to fire away at everyone.
Speaking of fire away, what's the name of your show?
Hey, man, I'm about to have Krish on as a co-host, man. He was firing away all day today. I'll tell you what.
Right?
Now, my aunt lives in San Francisco. She got me some of this nice tea to get me right. So I'm on my tea this morning. Not any of that. Not right now. I'm not. No.
Put the tea down.
No, I'm not like Coach Reynolds before games. I'm not. So.
Alrighty then. Just throwing shots right here at the end before we sign off. Coach B, where can everybody find you on social media? And thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
No problem. Anytime, fellas. It was a pleasure of mine. I always love chopping it up with you and Chris and TJ. Finally, nice to meet you. It was fun. We'll do it again. You can find me on Facebook at Coach B or UIS Missouri, Instagram UIS Missouri, Twitter Coach B, X. As you young YN say, X.
Awesome. Once again, anytime you want to join, I think the invite link that Chris sent you today should be valid every single weekend. So feel free to join us anytime you want. We would love to have you back. You definitely have some interesting insight that we can add to it, and gives us more than one coach on the show. So appreciate that for sure. You can find me, Sam Shady, on Facebook, and then obviously Shady Sports Network, every single one of your favorite social media platforms. There's a couple that we're not on out there, but vast majority we're on. And I'm going to make a quick announcement. I have not said it anywhere else really as of yet on any Shady Sports Network outlet. We launched a new page. We got a new YouTube channel. It's called Shady Sports Network Live Events. We are looking to partner with leagues that need a bigger audience to start things off for them. So we've got a bunch of games on there that we've been able to broadcast over the past couple of years. Maybe you've noticed we've had some American Arena League 2 games on our Twitter, on our YouTube channels. These games are also available on the Shady Sports Network YouTube as of right now. So definitely please do me a solid, run over there, subscribe to the channel. It's free to subscribe, but you help support us in another way. This is kind of just another way that we're looking to kind of help build the alternative football landscape. So if you happen to be a team watching and you need somebody to help broadcast your games, you need a little bit bigger audience, you need some help, we would love to join you in that endeavor and help give you a bigger footprint to get off the ground. Obviously, we're not a big broadcast network, but you do tap roughly 10,000 followers right out the gate. So,
and he does a great job. I have to say, he does a great job at getting the word out there. When we ran our Cobra show, we were doing numbers. Catching bodies, putting the women and children to sleep, like Coach B says. So it's amazing, man. Like you wanna get views, you wanna get honesty. I know some of these leagues kind of doubt that. Just come over to Shady Sports, man.
Absolutely. Really appreciate that, Krish. Also, we're looking for more team show partners. So if you're a team that wants a show out there, we've done work with countless different teams across the arena football landscape. Currently, we're running the AAL2 Turf Talk show for the league. We run a show for the Carolina Predators and the Jersey Bearcats of that league as well. Worked with the Gillette Mustangs, the Billings Outlaws, the Omaha Beef, the Carolina Cobras, the Dallas Falcons. Basically every team Coach B's been with, we've had a team show for them. So definitely would appreciate any other teams that would like to go down that route as well. We got a couple other guys that would love to host a team show that haven't had the opportunity yet. But with all that out of the way, really appreciate everybody who tuned in today. We had a really strong audience the whole time. You guys were really interactive. That stuff really pays off a lot for us, so we really appreciate that. But I'm going to ask you for one last thing before we get out of here. Hit that thumbs up. Doesn't matter where you're watching. Hit that thumbs up. It goes a long way for us. It tells whatever platform you're watching on that you enjoy this content and that they need to push it out to new viewers so we can continue to grow. So it goes a really long way. Takes you a couple seconds. I know I ask a lot of you guys every single week. You probably get sick of hearing it, but would really appreciate that. On that note, enjoy a great weekend of football. We'll catch you guys next Saturday.
I'm a game changer. I'm a game changer. I'm a game changer. I'm a game changer. I'm a game changer.